Ladies and gentlemen, the American Jury and Bulldog Nation, I am honored today. You don't hear that word connected to your name very often, does it?
No.
The one and only Andy Furman. How the hell are you, Andy?
First of all, who backed out for me to come here today? really, I know I wasn't top of the list.
The janitor.
Oh, is that what it was?
I was going to do the janitor. We're going to talk about the working man.
It's a pleasure seeing you. Look great. You get younger every time I see you.
You're graying well.
Yeah,
you're graying well.
At least I got it.
That's right. That's right. Mine's gone. It's gone. Nothing I can do about it. What have you been up to?
Well,
promote yourself, Andy.
Obviously not much if I'm here with you. Really. No.
Don't disclose how much we're paying you to be here today.
I work on Fox Sports Radio. I've been with them for 10 years. Fox Sports Radio locally on 1360, Sirius XM Channel 83. So I was the morning guy for like 5, 6 years, and now I'm on weekends and fill-in during the week, which is great. So, it's wonderful. I really like it. And I was doing some PR work at Redwood. You've heard of Redwood.
Yes.
Yeah, did PR work for them, although now I'm furloughed out because the COVID situation, so we'll see what happens there.
You're talking about Redwood, the school.
Yeah.
My brother Seth went there.
Is that
right?
Redwood
very well. He's a year younger than me, was afflicted with cerebral palsy.
It's a wonderful place.
It's a wonderful place,
and
wonderful school.
I put together a little weekly cable TV show for the clients there, and we had a kid who did the weather, 26-year-old kid who did the weather who was blind, and I got a kind of national story on him. So I was doing promotion and PR for them.
You are well known because you are, without a doubt, the most entertaining sports talk guy in Cincinnati ever. I'm sorry, better than Trump. But I got to ask you something.
Yeah.
A lot of the viewers, they know who you are. But why don't you tell us a little bit about where you came from and how you got in this crazy business?
You know, it's funny you mention that because the last thing I ever thought I'd ever do in my life was radio. I mean, really, truly. When I grew up, my goal, my job, my life, in my high school yearbook, I said I wanted to be the PR man for the New York Knickerbockers. I was a PR guy. Like, I tell you what, I started out, and how did I get there? In high school, I didn't like gym class. I hated it. I mean, I couldn't do it. So we had, like, gym class, and, like, there were no
You got
shows.
D's in gym.
It was Lafayette High School in Brooklyn. I loved it. And we had gym, and like right after the end of the gym class, you had to go to another class. You couldn't shower. You stunk. You sweated. I couldn't do those parallel bars or climbing the rope. I couldn't do that stuff. So there was a sign on the bulletin board one day down in the basement that said the basketball coach is looking for a team manager for the team. And I said to him, Coach, I'll do it if you get me out of gym class. And he did. I never went to gym class in high school, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. And to this day, I'm in touch with my guy.
That's wild.
I know. Gil Fershman is the coach. I'm trying to get him into the New York City Hall of Fame. And I used to call in the newspapers with the scores, with like 7 daily papers in New York. And that got me started. I got real excited when I would call and see something in the paper the next day. Got to college. I worked in the sports information office, and I ended up being the sports information director at Hunter College in New York City. Moved to St. Francis College in New York City as sports information, worked with the great Lou Rossini, a basketball coach, and then I got a job at Oral Roberts University as sports information director. So I thought I was on my way, hopefully, to work for the Knicks as the PR guy. It didn't work out that way. All along, I was writing sports for a Brooklyn newspaper, the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, writing high school sports for them and sending out the clippings. And by the way, that's how I got the job at Oral Roberts. There was a kid at Lafayette High School by the name of Arthur Stretch Graham, great basketball player. And
with a name like Stretch, he had to be a good basketball
He was good,
player.
and I sent the clips out all over the country, and the paper was big, but it wasn't as big as people thought. But out of town, they thought it was big. And when I sent the clips out, the guy at Oral Roberts, the athletic director, read it. He flew me out to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I got the job there. So that was.
You grinded it out.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Now, where'd you go from Oral Roberts?
From Oral Roberts, I got a job with the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, North American Soccer League, owned by the Robbie family. They own the Dolphins as well. So I did some PR work for the Dolphins, and I worked for the Strikers. And the late George Best, you must have heard of George Best.
Yes.
I was the PR guy when he was there. So
wow.
I picked up his extras, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And then we get out on the plane, we go to San Jose, play the San Jose Earthquakes, 5,000 women waiting at the airport for George Best. And Georgie would say to me, Andy boy, he says, those two could be for you. There's two fat ones with the buck teeth, those would be for you. But the George Best was great, and he'd go on a binge. We'd see him for a week, he was drinking. But so I did that for a while, and then I had a guy, it's crazy how this happens. It's all coming back now. I had a guy, Colin Fowles, on the Fort Lauderdale Strikers. He told me that he was the fastest player in the North American Soccer League. I said, oh, really? So I took him to Pompano Park Racetrack to race a horse.
So that was the first human horse race?
Yeah, I kept on trying.
Was Andy Furman?
Right. I don't know if the first human.
I know.
But So we took it to Pompano Park, and the PR guy there was Alan Jerome Finkelson, my godfather. I loved him. I mean, he taught me everything. We staged this event. It made like every paper in the country. There were like 7,000, 8,000 people there. Made the Miami Herald, all the TV stations. And then Finkelson comes to me and says, you know, I used to work at Monticello Raceway in New York. I want you to go there and work there. I said, man, I don't know the front end of a horse from the back end of a horse. I'd never been to a racetrack in my life till I went there. They gave me some decent money. They gave me a car. I said, bye-bye, Fort Lauderdale, like an idiot. I fly up to Monticello, New York in the dead of winter, and the guy who hired me wasn't even there. He has a summer home. He's a home in Florida, so I'm up there by myself. I mean, it was so cold. People urinating in the snow. You could see the yellow lines in the snow, you know. But I got to Monticello, and I said, look, what is I'm going to do? I get a map. I circled it, like a 100-mile radius. I went to, I never ate, I never had to pay to eat. I went to every Rotary Club, Lions Club, just make speeches,
promoting the racetrack,
begging them to come to the racetrack, and they came. And I tried the race again at Beasley Reese of the New York Giants. He raced a horse there in Monticello. That worked out, and I had a circus came to town. I had 2 elephants race on the track. Didn't work out that well because I didn't realize.
An elephant race. 2
elephants, but the thing is, elephants, they did their number 2 on the track, which is not a good thing, and they had to close the racetrack for a couple of days for repairs. I don't mean to go on, but that's exactly how things started.
So you go from the racetrack, what was next?
Well, the racetrack situation, Monticello was great, but there was a big article in the Scranton paper. Why do I get the Scranton paper? Monticello's near the Pennsylvania border. New York State has off-track wagering.
Home of Joe Biden.
There you go. Right. And New York State has off-track wagering where you can go to a parlor and make a wager and you don't have to go to the racetrack. Pennsylvania didn't have that. So we wanted to get those people from Pennsylvania to come to the races. So there was a story, a series in the Scranton Times about the KKK. And to this day, I won't forget the guy's name. His name was Albert Lentz. He was like the grand wizard of the KKK in that region. I wrote him a letter. I said, dear Mr. Lentz, come to the racetrack. We'll have a KKK night. Leave your sheets at home. And I copied the letter to all the media people. And, you know, when you work in racing, you have to be licensed by the wagering board. They got wind of the letter, and I got canned. They threw me out of Monticello. And to this day, I don't know why I got fired. No, but did I get fired because I wrote the letter or because they didn't come to the races?
Where'd you land? Where'd you land?
Well, what happened was I got an interview. Well, when I got fired, it was like all over the place. Sports Illustrated, getting phone calls from circuses, minor league baseball teams to work. Got a phone call from a company named Delaware North out of Buffalo, New York. They flew me out there, Buffalo. And the guy said, are you the guy that invited the KKK to Monticello Raceway? I said, yes. Well, if you did that to us, we wouldn't fire you, we'd kill you. He said, I'm dying. So I go home and I check, and I said, they were the old Emprise Corporation. There were little mafioso ties there. You know, they're sports service. That was them.
Right.
So I said I would work for them because I figured I'd never get fired because they got so many locations and operations and racing facilities, they just transferred me. That's exactly what happened. So I started working. I lasted at Buffalo Raceway for 2 weeks. 2 weeks at Buffalo Raceway in Hamburg, New York. Why did that happen? I said, look, I got to clean up my act, and I'm going to start doing like ethnic nights. This is a good thing, ethnic nights. Everybody loves that. Okay.
You couldn't do that.
How the hell did I know that Buffalo was 90% Polish? I got to Buffalo Raceway, and I said, let's have a Polish night. So I go to the guy, the track custodian, and the track has like a marquee on the highway. And you got to promote like racing, 7 o'clock post time tonight. I said, do me a favor, tonight, right, Polish night tonight, 7 p.m. post time. But do me a favor, when you write Polish night, put the P on backwards. He said, what do you mean? Do me a favor. So he does that. It's a Polish night with the backwards P. I run to my office. I call the Buffalo Evening News. I said, some schmuck spelled Polish wrong. They come out, boom, front page of the Buffalo Evening News. That's how you promote it.
That's
right?
how you promote.
I had the horses go around the track the wrong way. Right? Went to the police department, got one-way signs.
Horses going the wrong way.
For the Polish, it was the Polish pace. Got to do that, right? They called me into the office downtown. They threw me out of Buffalo Raceway for the one pay period I lasted. Then they sent me to Centennial Park in Littleton, Colorado. That's gone now. That's closed. From there, I went to Southland Greyhound Park in West Memphis, Arkansas.
How many racetracks did you work?
From there, I went to a place in Cleveland, Northfield Park in Cleveland. And then Latonia Racecourse in Florence, Kentucky.
That's how you got here.
To help promote the Jim Beam Stakes. That's what brought me here. And I got.
What year was that?
1981, the fall of 81, and the race was 82,
okay.
March of 82.
So how'd you get into radio?
I was at Latonia, and then they sold it. They sold Latonia. I went down. Well, actually, when they sold it, Tony, Delaware North sent me to a highlight fronton in Daytona Beach.
This is when they sold it to Jerry Carroll.
Right, and I didn't want to stay.
It became Turfway.
I didn't want to stay with Jerry Carroll.
Okay.
Because Delaware North was good to me.
Okay.
The Delaware one that says, "Don't worry, you'll have a job." They sent me to a highlight fronton in Daytona Beach, Florida, which wasn't bad, but you know. Then I got a phone call from Tony Kiernan, the general manager at Channel 5. He says, "Come on up here. I want to make you sports director of a TV station, Channel 5. I said, "You got to be kidding me. What do I know about TV, right?" But he hired me, and I was on air a little bit, but mostly the assignments and stuff.
So you were sports director at Channel 5?
For 6 months.
Okay.
And they called me in the office. He said, "If you don't like this, you come see me, and I'll get you something else." So after about 5-6 months, I said, "Tony, I hate this. I mean, you work 8-9 hours a day for 3 minutes. It's crazy. It's like a baby eating its young." He said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "How about Cincinnati Reds selling them?" Because Channel 5 had the Reds games then, over-the-air Reds games. He shoves me in an office with a telephone book to do sales. And I start from the back. Everybody starts from the front with A. I start from Z. So and every week we have the weekly sales meetings. They brought me in, and I said, "What do you got going?" I said, "Well, I wrote a letter to the brand manager of Top Job at P&G. And they looked at me like, "Top Job, it's a female demographic product. They're not going to do sports. They're not going to do." I said, "I wrote a letter to the lady." I said, "We'll do the Top Job at a game award." All right. Sure enough, a week later, she calls me up. I go down to the Twin Towers. I go up there, and I look behind the desk. There's a picture of Paul O'Neill. I said, "Oh, geez, I'm in. I'm in, right?" So she says, "We'd love to do the Top Job of the game award, and we'll donate $100 to Special Olympics after every game." She says, "How much does this cost?" I couldn't get it out. I couldn't say it. It's $167,000, right? They got it done. I went back. They went crazy. Keenan hugged me, kissed me. 2 days later, I got a phone call from the late J. David Martin from WLW Radio. He said, "I want to have lunch with you." I go home and tell my wife, I said, "I'm going to be working at WLW Radio." She says, "How do you know?" I said, "Why the hell's got to take me out to lunch?"
Right.
So we had lunch.
He's not going to waste time on lunch.
No. So we had lunch at the Normandy. Remember downstairs with the peanuts on the floor? So before we ordered, I said, "Mr. Martin, the answer is yes." He said, "What are you talking about?" So you're going to hire me, right? He said, "Why would you take me out to lunch? I don't work for you, and you're not going to fire me." So he started laughing. We had a good time. So he hired me. He let me sell Reds baseball on the radio, and we put together a Sunday morning show, which I eventually did with Tom Dinkel. So that was my road to WLW. Very.
So you did a show with Dink.
With Dink every Sunday morning.
All right.
And then I was there, and then I was then Bob Trumpy did the main sports talk. He left to go to NBC full time. Chris Collinsworth came in. I did it with Chris, and his schedule was tight. I guess doing other stuff, HBO, whatever it was. And then I got the sports talk gig.
What year was that you followed Collinsworth?
Well, I was with him, but then when he left, I did.
How many years were you doing sports talk on 700 WLW?
Well, I think I was there total 18 years.
Okay.
But I think I did sports talk at least 12, 13.
You were amazing because you were entertaining. My radio mentor, was Willie and Daryl Parks, my coach.
Me too.
And they talk all the time about radio's supposed to be entertainment.
Right.
Not reporting statistics.
I agree.
And all that
I
stuff.
agree.
You're supposed to take it's what Trumpy did. Provocative. And you were great at it. I mean, and we talked about this. The platform of 700 WLW.
It's a stick. It's 50,000 watts.
Correct.
I could put an infant on there. People will listen.
You're right. And I think, for example, we talked about this before we came on air, is the people that worked at Fox News.
Wait a minute. I don't want people to think that you and I talk off air. I mean, you invited me in here. I'm doing this thing, and hopefully I won't see you for another 6 years. Yeah, so don't go down that road.
Megyn Kelly, Bill O'Reilly, and all of them are like, hey, maybe the Fox News platform wasn't all that bad.
Right.
But you're a survivor, so you leave WLW. You go to Real Talk 1160, which was a treat because I came from WLW over there. You were doing sports when I started doing my morning show, evening show.
It wasn't a bad situation.
And they tried to pitch a what was that called? A WKRP type show. Remember? They tried to pitch a reality show. You and I were going to be two of the characters.
Well, the funny thing
is, they should have taken that show.
I did this show from like 5 to 7 in the afternoon, and it was okay in the summertime, but in wintertime at 5 o'clock when it got dark, you couldn't pick the station up. That was the problem.
Yeah, it's like I got who was it? Somebody at WLW made a joke about Mark Amazon said it was like doing a radio show in a treehouse, and I was like, yeah, you're right.
No, it is funny, but you know what? We survived.
But with all
we
these
had listeners,
right. With all these platforms, though, I mean, this is a new dawning of the age now. So when did you start doing Fox Sports after Real Talk? And how long have you been with Fox Sports?
About 10 years. Year 2000, I think I started.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you're loving it.
I do. I mean, they let me do it from home, which is great.
Now, I interviewed Dink, and by the way, I want
Who?
Dink.
Oh.
You and Dink got doing a show again. Well, I need to reunite you and Dink.
If he wants to.
But I got.
He's afraid.
He's afraid.
He's afraid of me. He may be a big-time football player, but he's afraid of me.
He's afraid of you.
He's a pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to tell you something. What I love about this format is, especially since it's my format, is that I can't be fired and I can't be canceled.
I'm with you. I mean,
how do you
we
like
need
that?
to have our logo back here.
Oh, absolutely. This is the Bulldog Show.
Right.
We'll have the Furball Dink Show, whatever the hell. You can name your show whatever the hell you want on the Bulldog Network. Now, I talked to Dink. I want to hit you with some of this. I think what major, because you cover pro sports.
Right.
I think what they've done with pro sports is awful. Between the Black Lives Matter, the kneeling during the national anthem, so forth and so on. I mean, I think they underestimated. In fact, look at this last election. 72 million people voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
And they created a war with their ticket buyers. The people watching. I mean, I say this all the time. With all due respect to liberal elites, who watches pro sports? Who watches pro football?
Right.
Trump, a Trump kind of guy.
Who can afford it?
A beer drink, you know. But I think they've really screwed up. I think they've permanently hurt themselves. What's your view on all that?
Well, let's go back for a second. Number one, let's give a pat on the back to the athletes who were smart enough to realize that they have the platform that could reach a lot of people.
True.
Okay, let's now take a slap in the face to the commissioners who permitted them to do that.
Correct.
All right? So now we go back and say, wait a minute. Why do I like sports? Why do I love sports? Well, it's an escape mechanism.
Escape.
It's an escape from, like, my daily job. The asshole who has a cubicle next to me.
Right.
I want to go with my kids. I want to bond. Maybe I could do a business deal at sporting events. Whatever it may be, that's why I love sports. I get away from the real world. That's basically what it was. As a kid, I went to the games. You don't see anything about politics at the games except maybe on opening day when the president throws out the first ball.
Right.
That's the only politics
Right.
I have. But these players are smart enough to do that. But the owners kowtowed to them and permitted them to have Black Lives Matters on the court, on their jerseys. For what purpose? The only thing that did was split everybody right down the middle. And I'll tell you what, the ratings have proved that, number one. And number two, you know, the legacy of LeBron James, as great as he is, his legacy will be remembered for breaking up the NBA and killing them in this regard. They won't remember him what he did point-wise or MVPs or championships. That's how they'll remember LeBron James.
You know, Michael Jordan said it best. Republicans buy tennis shoes too.
Yeah.
I mean, they buy shoes too. I mean,
Right.
That's the attitude. You're right. Sports is supposed to be an escape. I think I'm a great example. I watch all sports, pay attention to all sports. I no longer schedule my life around a Sunday football game. If I happen to be home, I'll be watching it, but I'm not going to say, oh, Bengals play at 1, I got to be at home. I don't do that anymore.
Right.
And I think that's more and more what the fans, and plus this whole ticket thing, like the spreading them out in the stands, you know, and this social distancing silliness.
Well, the Bengals have done that for years, social distancing. Nobody went to the games. But let me clarify one thing, because I don't want people to think that I'm opposed to Black Lives Matter. I just don't think it belongs in this sporting venue.
Correct.
That's all I'm saying. Like I'm not one of those people that doesn't want you to protest. I applaud everything you're doing. You know, the George Floyd thing was horrific. It really was. But it doesn't belong in sports.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Right. George Floyd was a great example that our whole country was on the side of George Floyd.
Right.
Everybody. And they blew it by making it this issue and dividing everything else.
Right. As far as the kneeling, you know, you want to kneel, fine. My thing is this, do it on your time. As long as you have the uniform on, you're my employee. Don't do it on my time. Right. And the one who really created this whole mess was Roger Goodell with Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
You know, he permitted him to do that. Colin Kaepernick, if you want to wear socks that say pigs in a blanket, if you want to be anti-cop, God bless you, do it. This is a free country, you could do that. But not on my time in the National Football League with your uniform on.
Right.
That's the key.
Right. That's the key. I came up with this phrase that I use, and it probably applies to you. Dink admitted it, like with Spectrum. There's certain things he can't say and can't talk about. You're the same way at Fox Sports Radio, aren't you? Aren't there certain things that you're not allowed to say?
You don't know that
or do they let you say?
No, you don't know that until you say it. That's the key. You don't know. I mean, I kind of watch myself. I mean, you can't be a moron in this climate.
Right.
There's certain things you're not going to go and not going to say.
Right.
I mean, I don't. There's no list. It's common sense. I mean,
common sense.
I mean, after Tommy Brenneman, and God, that was terrible. After Tommy Brenneman got the boot, you would think that people were smart enough not to go down that road, but there were 4 or 5 other announcers who got the boot after that.
Right.
I mean, some idiot was tweeting, I think the announcer from the Sacramento Kings, he got out, he said Black lives don't matter, all lives matter. What are you doing? You might as well take a gun to your head. What are you doing to yourself? How stupid are you?
Yeah, you gotta watch it. But I have to admit, I love the freedom of not being able to, because everybody knows my politics is it's very much Trump, but I don't think it's a place for sports. You are a promoter. You are famous for promoting. What is your favorite promotion that Andy Furman has done?
Well, I better say this. It was opening night at the racetrack in 1984 when I got married. I got married opening night at Latonia. We sat around in a meeting, and Steve Baker, the general manager, said, "What are we going to do opening night? What are we going to do? We got to do something." I said, "I'll get married." This was like in July, and I got married in September. September 6th.
So the only reason that you got married to the wonderful, beautiful Miss Furman is for a promotion.
Well, it was part of it. And I really, God bless her. I mean, she put the whole thing together in about a month. And really, she rented the chair. We did it in the paddock. It really was beautiful. It was a Thursday night. We had a string quartet. We had the limos. And I said, anybody who brought me a gift will get him free. So we got 5,000 people that night.
Do you think you could talk your wife into getting divorced simply for a promotion?
She could do that like in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, she would do that. She's been great putting up with my shenanigans, really.
Well, I want to thank you for coming in.
It's over?
It's unless you got something.
No.
Unless you got something more to say.
I'll be here with
I'll be candid with you. I'm kind of done talking to you.
I guess.
I don't have any.
I was hoping when you called me.
I don't have any more questions.
No, I was hoping when you called me, we do it by phone. Really, to be honest.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
And I gotta get with you and Dink. We gotta get a Dinkle Furman. Will you guys fight? Wait. Will you have to arm wrestle him to whose name goes first? You need to choose. Spelling contest. A spelling contest. Dinkle's from Kansas. He's from Kansas. You just do a spelling contest, you'll win.
I can spell him the K.
Sorry, Dink.
I can spell him the K in the S and he couldn't spell it. Really.
This is the Bulldog. I want to thank my guest, Andy Furman, for coming in. And
is there a parting gift?
You know what?
You need like a
my track staff has failed me. You don't even get a mug. You don't even get a Bulldog show mug.
A T-shirt, a Bulldog Network T-shirt or something.
We got to get our act together.
Promotions.
We got to get our act together.
Hats.
This is the Bulldog. Every dog has their day. Have a great day.